sometimes it's the only thing they have. And I don't like what the attempt has been to do to Pam Hodges' good name. And so I wanted to set the record straight for all of those who received emails, phone calls, and I hear some saying they had no doubt. You know why? Because I don't have to explain to you who Pam Hodge is. You know who Pam Hodge is. You've known her for a decade. You know the character, integrity, and all of everything. I don't have to explain to you who she is. And so I'm done with that, Mayor. I just need to clear the record and her good name. And so with that, I will go to my agenda. First on my agenda, I've got the T-SPLOS projects, Band 1. These are all of the projects in Band 1 that we will be handling locally. And so we're asking you to allow us to proceed with executing and funding the pre-construction.
All right, there's a motion and a second to remove the T-SPLOS projects in Band 1. Any discussion? All right, please cue it. Councilors, you may enter your votes when it comes up. And Councilors Garrett and Tucker vote in favor as well.
I voted yes on that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, next, number 2 is Pros Apartments, a variance of sidewalk installation at River Road, and we agree with that based on no sidewalks being out there in that location at this time.
All right, Councilor Thomas?
Mr. City Manager, this is the apartment complex that's going in between Winbrook Baptist Church and what is it, Mobley Road, Thrive?
Yes, ma'am, it's on that.
And the road there is very narrow between the road and the where we would have to put a sidewalk if we put a sidewalk. My question is, are they putting in turn lanes there also?
Yes, ma'am, there are some turn lanes.
They are going to have turn lanes off River Road into that apartment complex.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's also some villas that are being built on that same side of the road. They will not have to have sidewalks either, right?
No, ma'am, we would bring that back. Yes.
Okay, and they're doing a turn lane also, right?
I believe they
I
are.
believe so, okay. I just curious, thank you.
Okay. I think we did have a motion and a second, did we not? Lindsay, we did not. All right. There is a motion second now. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll cue it on the screen, and councilors, please enter your votes. Councilors Garrett and Tucker both vote yes. We'll get your buttons fixed before the next meeting. I didn't do it.
I think it's done.
It's done. They're silencing you. Okay, we will get that done. Thank you.
Next, Mayor, I've got Watley Oil, a variance for sidewalk as well at Miller Road, asking your approval.
Second.
Motion second to approve item 3. Any discussion? All right, please cue it. Councilors, you can register your vote. And
Next,
Tucker and Garrett both voted yes.
next, Mayor, I've got a $200 donation to the police department from.
Motion second to approve the donation to the police department. Any discussion? All right, you can please cue it. All right, and Councilor Garrett and Tucker vote in favor, so that.
Next, I've got environmental Services Agreement. It's a third amendment to an existing environmental services agreement with Columbus Power Producers. And it has to do with the landfill gas, and of course, it's a third party for use as a fuel, sold to a third party for use as a fuel. And of course, we would get some benefit from any sales that would occur.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion on the item? All right, hearing none, you can cue it. You can enter your votes.
And
Tucker and Garrett both vote in favor.
next,
Okay.
next, Mayor, and this comes from Council Barnes, and he may want to explain it, but it's an addition to the legislative agenda, and want to ask the legislative delegation to work to lower prescription drug prices. Council Barnes brought this to us.
Councilor Barnes?
Yeah. Mayor and Council, many of the drug manufacturers give rebates. Those rebates, unfortunately, are not consistently passed on to the customers. Unfortunately, a lot of the seniors. And so what this legislature is asking is for them to stop and take note of the fact that this is not being passed on to the consumers. So in other words, these drug companies, they're giving rebates to the pharmacy, what do you call them, PBMs, pharmacy managers. And those rebates are not being passed on to the consumers. And so that's what this is a request for, basically.
Very good. Okay.
The pharmacy benefit managers, there you go.
All right. I need a motion. Is there a second? A motion and a second to pass this on to our legislative delegation. Any discussion? All right, great. Cue it, and we'll get them entered. Garrett and Tucker both vote yes.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
City Manager, the next four items are grants, I believe.
Yes, we got to,
I move
yes,
approval and ask you to read them out.
yes, sir.
Okay, well, there's a motion and a second to approve. Mr. City Manager, read through them, and then we'll have the vote for all
Got a
of them.
historic preservation certified local government grant for design guidelines related to Uptown Facade Board design guidelines and Board of Historic and Architectural Review. They've not been updated since 2000 on the Facade Board and Architectural Review since 2010, and this is a $25,000 grant with a 40% required match. Next, we've got a solid waste infrastructure for recycling grant, and we're asking to apply to the Environmental Protection Agency for up to $5 million for a citizen drop-off area and a solid composting area. We've got a Georgia County Internship Program grant, $2,607.60 with ACCG. And we've got a FEMA Assistance to Firefighters grant, $347,333.68, or is otherwise awarded. And there's a $31,575.79, 10% match. Mayor, those are the grants.
All right, any questions about Councilor Thomas?
Mr. City Manager, on that last one, on number 10, would you, can you expand a little bit on what the fireman's grant
Yeah.
covers, or what this will pay for?
That grant is for the purchase of new fitness equipment for the department's 14 fire stations and training division.
New,
Is for the purchase of new fitness equipment
our
for the
firemen are
14.
pretty fit, but okay.
Yeah, but they're fit enough, they've worn out the last fitness equipment, I think, but it does help protect them too, as they. All right, any other questions or discussion about any of those four grants? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And Councilors Tucker and Garrett both vote in favor as well.
So on purchases, I got watershed fertilization.
Approve A through H.
All All right, motion and second to approve all the purchases, A through H. Is there one that anybody would like pulled for further information? Mr. City Manager, why don't you go through them? We'll take them all together at the end.
So watershed fertilization is $23,474. Got pressure washing services for the Civic Center roof. I've got towable electric boom lift for Parks and Rec. I've got a compact excavator for Parks and Rec. Got space planning and programming and design professional services for Fire Station number 5. That's going to be coming. I've got a rapid access system project, and this is, I really want Chance to come forward and share with council members so they know what this Knox box is and how it's going to benefit public safety. But it's a rapid access system project known as Knox box. And then I've got prison management software for Muskogee County Prison, and then declaration of surplus and donation of 2 old Crown Vic vehicles declared surplus by the police department. And those are the purchases.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and call the vote, but I'm glad Chance is here to walk through this. This is a significant investment on the part of the city because it's going to make a lot of folks safer. All right, all those in favor of the items that were listed, say aye.
Oh, yeah.
Aye. Any opposed? Aye. And Tucker and Garrett both said aye as well. Chance, come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, City Manager. If the Knox box system is a system that we have been exploring for several reasons, the biggest reason that we came up with was in light of recent incidents that have happened around the country involving school shootings and other things. One of the issues that came to light in those incidents were access, quick access, rapid access to getting inside the buildings quickly. There are systems in place, and as you see in this presentation I have, you should have it in front of you. The presentation actually talks about some of the things that were discovered in other incidents, but we have actually seen it here in Columbus in a situation where we had a hoax that actually occurred. And upon looking at that hoax, one of the issues were how quick could we get the keys to the schools? This system is a system that has grown over the years. This is not, Knox box is not something new to larger cities. Larger progressive cities have gone and purchased these Knox boxes over the years, but they had a manual key to them. And the worst thing that could happen is that manual key gets lost. And you can imagine the tracking, and now someone has the ability to go open these boxes. A lot of, in the past, fire departments were mainly the departments that were coordinating the Knox box systems. And that was if they had a fire alarm or an issue in the middle of the night, they could get into those buildings. So I want to talk a little bit, just kind of redirect, and I'll talk about the fire department too. But as far as the school safety piece of it and the safety of any of our businesses, if you think, you know, if a business closes at 10 o'clock at night and they have a problem at 2 o'clock in the morning, how long are we waiting on the key holder to get there, whether the alarm's going off, whether there is a fire issue, whether there's a medical issue in there? We don't want to have to wait. The other side of that is, if they don't wait, then they're going to have to gain access, which I'll talk about. But we looked at, just like these other agencies around the country, who needs access? You know, you could say, oh, fire department, absolutely, but you also have to look at the law enforcement side of it too. We want our Columbus Police and Muskogee County Sheriff's Office to have access quickly, as well as the fire department. And in this case, there's actually a push now through the school system, through the Muskogee County School District, to purchase a similar system. The only problem is they can't purchase that system unless the city of Columbus uses that system as well. The city of Columbus would actually be the ones managing the system, giving permissions, and I would propose, and I've said this to the city manager and the mayor, that system be coordinated through Columbus Fire and EMS. They have the personnel, they have the knowledge and the ability to do that. Plus the fire inspectors go out, they do pre-fire plans. It's the perfect solution for that. The school system would take care of their own, but the city would take care of this. When in talking with the city manager, he suggested that we go ahead and look at all city buildings as well. And this proposal has us putting the boxes themselves at the city buildings. So we'll talk a little bit about, real quick, what that means. So these boxes have come a long way. As I mentioned, they used to be just regular metal keys that you put in there, and if you had to carry that key or put it in your car, or keep it in the fire truck in a specific place to be able to gain that access. They have gone now with an electronic version of that, which is so much better in the sense that it tracks where the key is, who uses the key, and we'll even talk a little bit about some safeguards they have in them. So things that they do, not only secure key option, but also perimeter access, you can do a lot more with it. It's not just the keys to the building. You could even do gate keys and locks. We'll talk about fire connections and things here as well. But what this prevents is from our law enforcement partners and our fire partners from having to gain access into a building forcefully, thereby causing thousands of dollars of damage to the building. If you just think for 1 second, if you had a school or a business in the city that the fire alarm goes off at 2 o'clock in the morning, how long we have to wait on a key holder to get out of bed, get there. Those units are out of service. They can't respond to anything else. And if they do believe there is a problem, now they're forcing entry into that building, which has to be later repaired by the owner of the building. It also provides other ways of storage. If they storage buildings, they could decide to put a box on that as well. And I'll talk about what those look like. So this box here is what we call the Knox box. This box is actually mounted, and it's mounted with 4 bolts. It's not something you just screw into the wall. It's mounted pretty firmly on the outside of the building. The location where the box is put is flexible. The owner can say it, but the fire department and law enforcement will know these buildings have it because they'll have that listed in their CAD system as well. But this box is mounted. The keys from the business owner or the school or whoever, their responsibility is to make sure the keys remain updated. We have updated keys inside that box. Another aspect of it that I think one of the assistant chiefs with the fire department mentioned was the electric vehicles that we have, the electric vehicles charging stations. Having the ability to cut the power to those if there was a fire or an incident. They would be able to go to this box, open that box up with their key, and cut the power to those as well. As far as residents go and folks, maybe you have someone that has a disability, or they can actually purchase a box that still fits the fire department key that they can install in their homes or a facility that they're staying at that the fire department and law enforcement would have access to as well. One other thing that the fire department can talk a lot more to this, but the fire department connections that are actually stationed outside of buildings that the fire department can hook to charge sprinkler systems in the buildings and put fires out. A lot of times you'll probably walk around the city every once in a while and see them. They used to have brass caps on them. Well, people would steal the brass caps for whatever reason, to go and try to make money off of that. But they started putting plastic covers over them to save on the cost. But the plastic covers would get broken or pulled off. And these are some examples of what happens when that happens. You may have critters or trash or whatever in there, and this could cause thousands of dollars in damage if they used it, or obviously could inhibit the ability for them to save a life with that sprinkler system. So these systems also have locks that the fire department can purchase, or the business owner actually can purchase and put on there that fits the fire department key. Now, how do you get the boxes if you're a business owner, or you're wanting to put the box on your wall, or you're wanting to put it on your fire department connection through the fire department? You cannot just call this company and order that unless the city of Columbus actually participates in this program. And when you order it, that approval goes through the fire department or whoever's making the approvals here, and that approval then, they key it to that key so that it fits Columbus's system. It's a very good system in place here. So the system, just to kind of show you what it's going to look like in the fire trucks and the patrol vehicles, this box here is what we call the E-Key, E-Secure. So this key here, the fire department, firefighters in the fire trucks, or I'll show you the one in the patrol cars in a second, put in their code, the key then pops open. They grab the electronic key, which I'll show you a picture of. It's the one over there on the right that has 1, 2, and 3 on it. They grab the electronic key and can now go to the building to gain access. The one on the left of the picture there is the one that would be in the patrol car. The one on the right takes more numbers for more firefighters. As you can imagine, there's more firefighters on the truck than there is in a patrol car, 1 officer, 2 officers in a patrol car. So this is the E-Key, the electronic key. So once the key comes out of the system in the truck or the car, we can program an amount of time that that key is good for. So if we say we only want this key to work for 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, then they have that 10 or 20 minutes to get to the building, then put their second code into the key, put it in the box, turn it, and grab the keys out. If they forget and stick it in their pocket, or they lose it along the way and it drops into the bushes, when that time limit is up, it's deactivated. Now, it can be reactivated if it's found, or we just have to buy a new key. And the keys aren't cheap. It gives them a lot of motivation to keep up with the keys, obviously. So what we have seen is this is a good system to answer a lot of questions. Some of the things I had not even thought about on the Homeland Security and Emergency Management side was the downtime of the units and the fire trucks or the law enforcement vehicles and those personnel while they're waiting on the key holder. The big piece for me was rapid access into our buildings, into our schools, especially when we go into a lockdown and all the doors are locked. How do you get in at that point? We can't rely on, well, somebody's got master keys or somebody can bring us keys. This gives the ability for the sheriff's office, the police department, and the Columbus Fire and EMS, and our department as well, Homeland Security, to have rapid access to a set of keys to that building to gain access. And we have already seen in incidents around the country that it can save lives. I know this is a big investment. I appreciate the mayor and the city manager for stepping up and really bringing it and asking me to come up here and talk about it. I believe this is something, I shared it with a coworker, colleague, a few weeks ago that we were working towards this, and the comment was, you know, this is going to save lives. And I do believe that if we ever have an incident like that, it really could. As far as management goes, we do have an annual cost of about $2,200, it's $2,199, $2,200 for maintaining the cloud software that the system works on. The patrol cars and the fire trucks do not have to have internet inside of them. A lot of them do, but if they don't, when they come back to a hotspot, it automatically uploads the information. And what that means is, if someone accesses a building and you go, well, who accessed that building? You can actually go back into the system and see who pulled out their e-key, whose code was used on the key, so you have complete audit trail of how that building or school or whatever was accessed. So that's the end of my presentation. I don't want to bore you too long with it, but I'll absolutely answer any questions you have.
Councilor Huff.
Director Corbett, thank you. Great presentation. My question would be about the actual system. So there's a box at particular said building posted up, and no one can get in it, and keys are protected. And you have an electronic key that will be produced that no one has access to but public safety?
Yes, sir, that is correct. It is
Okay.
only public safety would have access to it.
Okay, and the box that's holding that key is theft-proof?
Oh, yes, sir. They have studied that, but I wish I could completely tell you all the studies they have done, but we were assured by the company they have done every type of tamper-proof test you can do, that you are not going to get into that box. You'd have to knock it off the wall, take it with you, and that's going to be almost impossible because it's held on by 4 bolts, and you want to put it on a very secure part of your wall.
Okay.
We feel very
And
comfortable.
the key system will be in the patrol cars and the fire trucks?
Yes, sir. So we pulled the numbers from the police chief, the sheriff, and the fire chief as how many they felt they needed. You'll have one, and I'm going to speak to this. You're going to have one in every fire truck, and the battalion chief explorers that ride around. In the sheriff's office, I believe you have 45 vehicles. In the police department, you have 40 vehicles. And those are going to typically be supervisors or vehicles that are going to be able to immediately respond to it. Worst case, you have the fire truck right around the corner. You get the key from there. So, it would be a lot more money if we tried to equip this in every patrol car in the police department. And you're looking at about $1,300 per vehicle when you do that. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes, sir.
Councilor Thomas.
Will the ambulances have these keys?
No, ma'am. We do not have them right now put in the we can absolutely add them to the ambulances. That would be something we can get with the fire chief about. And we could add them to the ambulances, but typically when you have an incident like this, you're going to be responding a fire truck with the ambulance anyway, and or police and sheriff's office as well.
A couple of weeks or months ago, we had a item that came to us of apartment complex out by Northside High School, and they were gonna have one entrance that was locked, and they said that the public safety folks would have a key to that. Is this what they're talking about, or can they get this? Can other entities that have these locked gates?
Yes.
Put one of these things on it?
I'm so glad you
At
answered.
their expense?
I'm so glad you asked that, because I forgot to say that. Businesses will be able to purchase the box themselves for it's about $650, and there are some different applications for like gates and locks and things, so those prices do vary. But businesses will be able to purchase these boxes at the recommendation of the police chief, the sheriff, the fire chief. They'll be able to purchase these boxes. The notification will be made to the system holder, in this case, I believe would be Columbus Fire and EMS, and then they will purchase that, and the fire department will go out and actually open to be able to put the keys in. Again, they're the only ones that have access to it. As far as the gates go, they make solutions for that as well. This is a much better solution than that apartment owner trying to make 32 keys to hand out to police officers, and then when somebody loses one key, what do? Replace all the keys and relock it? There's so many things to do, and since you asked the question, I'm going to tell you that I've already started talking about this system because I'm excited about it, and Mitch at St. Luke has already said they want the first 5 boxes, so they're putting them on their buildings. So I believe that's what we're going to see in a lot of the businesses and houses of worship and other places around the city. They're going to want to buy into this system to give our first responders very quick access to them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I think that's it. And
Thank you, sir.
I'll just mention that, a couple of weeks back, there was what turned out to be a false alarm, but it was a situation where they locked down a school. And unfortunately, because of the great communication between the MCSD and between our public safety, they gained pretty quick access. But there were a few minutes there that they had to coordinate. Now, when minutes can mean the difference in people living and dying, just want to thank Chance for bringing this to our attention, and I think that's what got us moving to try to take a look at whether or not we couldn't go ahead and get this thing implemented. So it's a good job.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And so, Mayor, just going into the various updates, first I'm going to call up our risk manager retired, Anne Marie Emile, and Aretha Hollowell is here, I believe. But Mayor, as she is going to talk to you about what she's going to talk about, I just want you to know that she retired on Friday, and we are going. Yes, we can't. Make her leave, but we are going to miss her dearly. And I've said, in all my years here, she's got to be. And I'm careful to say this, but I put her at the top of the best risk managers we've ever had in all of my years here. And I told her that on Friday. But she's a lawyer. She is great. She's done a phenomenal job. She has saved the city so much. And I just want to say thank you. And so she wanted to come back and do a final report that she wanted to do while she was still working, but we couldn't get it on the agenda. And so, Anne Marie Emile, thank you for your service to this government.
Thank you for those
Yes.
words. Appreciate it. Okay, yes, so I'm gone, but I'm like a bad penny. I keep showing up. So I wanted to give you a wrap-up report. As you know, I've been with the city for about 10.5 years, and we made some major changes about 9 years ago. So I wanted to give you some figures and some ideas for how we did it. And so I've got a clicker. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit on workers' comp and then a little bit on liability. Some other ideas that we put in place to recover damages, the insurance side, the safety side, and spreading the word about how wonderful Columbus is around the country. So, workers' comp stats. where the last full year before we made the changes, we spent $3.7 million on claims for workers' comp. The last 4 years, we have spent around $800,000 a year instead of $3.7 million. And I'm English, so I'm kind of conservative. So I estimated conservatively, we've saved about $30 million in the last 9 years. And I want to emphasize that we did that by providing better treatment to our employees faster. It's really important. The number one thing you have to think about when you're handling workers' comp is the employee. And we had a famous incident the year before we changed where we had a firefighter seriously burned on Memorial Day weekend. It took about 18 months to bring him back full duty. The following year, Memorial Day weekend, we had somebody suffer burns and they were back 90 days. It's so important to get the treatment that people need. So the second figure is the average savings per claim for return to work. Now there's a whole big book and formula and all sorts of things on national guidelines for every single injury, from hurting your pinky to losing a limb. And it says the average number of days that it should take to bring them back to work. If you average those out, we are actually 120 days on average below that overall figure. And that's just amazing. That's, you know, that just warms the cockles of our hearts. So the percentage of injured workers out of work, what's considered acceptable nationwide is if you have your people on workers' comp, about 65% of them are actually going to be at home watching Judge Judy. Our average is 12%, because we like to bring our people back to where they feel useful and they're with their colleagues and we find them something to do. And that's exactly how we've done it. We understand that the primary goal, as I said, is to get the best treatment for our employees as quickly as possible. Beyond that, my job was to save the taxpayer some dollars, so I'm kind of glad that I've been able to do something for both of them. One of the key things, though, was getting the cooperation of the departments and coordinating with the departments. We have just about every job imaginable in the city, and there had to be a way of moving people around when they got injured and they were released to light duty to bring them back. So, for instance, we had a police officer who was injured and couldn't be physical, but as you know, our departments have an endless list of tasks for which they have no personnel and for which an injured employee could provide some support. We put that officer with Public Works, and she worked on a database to update the garbage list that Waterworks sends out the bills for. And the last time I checked on that, a year or so later, it had increased the money by $120,000. So that really helped everybody. With departments that, Public Works, Parks, all the departments that have the crews, if they lose one member of their crew with all the personnel issues we have, you've got a crew that probably needs 4 or 5 people and they only have 3. So when you've got somebody who's hurt, that's 2. And they're trying to do the work of 4 or 5 people. So you're increasing the likelihood of one of the 2 getting hurt. So we want to get them back. Also, long-term injury, the famous stat is 12 weeks. If you don't get somebody back doing something useful within 12 weeks of an injury, they start feeling disabled. They start feeling as though they're not valuable, that they can't be valuable, that they're never going to come back. And that's a vicious cycle. You get to the point where they get weaker and weaker and worse. So we always will try to bring somebody back within that period of time. We had a police officer who was very badly injured. Police department were great. What we did was they couldn't use their dominant arm, they couldn't walk, they couldn't do this, they couldn't do that. So we transported them into police headquarters. They sat him before a phone, put a headset on, and all he had to do was press a button with his non-dominant hand and talk to people. And then he was with his colleagues and he felt great again, and he recovered much more quickly once we brought him back. And then, of course, we do have a few game players. I will say to anybody at any time that 98% of the employees in the city are the best people you are ever going to meet, bar none. They do an awful lot of things for an awful lot of people with almost no recognition for it, and they are the best people on earth. The 2% are the ones that we spend all the time on because they are gaming the system and making it harder for their colleagues. And that depresses the morale of the entire department. So I will say that we did aggressively pursue the few game players we had at the time we changed the system, and we have very few game players now. That's probably 0.2% now instead of 2%. The other thing that is absolutely vital is choosing the right partners. With the medical providers, I ran up and down Veterans Parkway for 6 months when I first came and met every single provider, told them how we could help them and what I expected of them. That's something that RISC has done, because if we've got the right partners, then we can work together to help the employees. And that was very important. With our provider, we have a weekly conference call where we talk to the adjuster, the nurse case manager. We nearly always have the attorney that we work with on the call as well. And we look at difficult cases. We look at potential solutions. Sometimes we have employees that are not responding to conservative treatments. And at some conference or other, I've heard about this great new trending treatment, and it may not be on the workers' comp lists yet, but if the nurse case manager thinks that it can help the employee, then we're going to give it a try, because it's worth spending that money to save all the money on somebody being out for another year. So all of that we will work on. We train the department personnel on how to respond on when an injury occurs, what they need to do, how they need to report it, who needs to know what, why, when, and where, that kind of thing. So switching swiftly to liability claims, what I would say about these figures is that this represents only those claims that we have sent to outside counsel, which is probably 15, 20% at the most of the number of claims we get in. The vast majority of claims are dealt with by risk management itself without the intervention of an attorney. But these, of course, were the ones that became litigious, that were usually the larger claims. And so while it's a little bit difficult to compare apples and oranges, I've done it the same way for 9 years, so these are my total figures. We have sent out about 200 claims to outside counsel. Initial demands were getting on for 30 million. A lot of people will demand a completely unrealistic figure. But then on the other hand, we get a lot of people who never make demands, so it kind of balances out. With settlements, because we've chosen the right partners, we're at around 2 million. So that is a huge saving on over saying, okay, well, somebody's claiming 200,000, let's give them 50% and send them home. It doesn't work that way. if we have a legitimate claim, number one, they shouldn't need to go to an attorney. Number two, we're going to give them what's fair, but we are not here to make somebody wealthy because there was an accident. We're going to give them what is fair and reasonable, and we have stuck to that. And I'm sure that whoever succeeds me is going to do the same thing, except they'll probably have some even better ideas than I had. And out of those 200 that we referred outside, about 100 of them, half of them got closed without us making any payment at all, except for attorney's fees, which were well worth the effort. One of the other things that I was interested in was that there are a lot of accidents that happen in the city that are not actually known to us. In other words, a civilian vehicle drives into a traffic signal box. Risk management never hears about that. The insurance company usually does, but we have neither the personnel nor the resources to mine the state accident reports. But there are companies that have designed algorithms to do just that. And so we brought on board a damage recovery service in 2016, thanks to council voting for it. And what they do is they mine the state records and then they pursue the insurance company and or the driver to recover the damage that has been done to city property. We paid nothing up front. This is money we would never see if we didn't use them. And they take a small percentage of the recovery as their fee. And we, as of now, we have actually recovered close to $500,000 in the time since they came on board. And while that's not huge, that's close to $500,000 we'd never have seen without them. So, you know, I mean, in Angelica's budget, that's kind of a little blip, but you know, risk management isn't usually seen as a revenue producer, so I had to tell you about it. Insurance, we picked that up about 5 years ago or so, I think. Property and casualty insurance, I'm proud to say that we have kept our travelers' coverage even after the flooding claims. And one of the reasons for that is that we are very proactive in going and talking to them. Pam Hodge, great. She and I went up to Atlanta and talked to travelers. The brokers were great. I mean, you know, I just did something very unusual and mostly kept my mouth shut. And they did a great job. We have kept the insurance and have still kept it. Our excess workers' comp coverage, because we are self-insured, but over a certain figure, the state board wants you to have excess coverage because of the potential for a disastrous situation. Safety National has given us successive 2-year rate guarantees, and this was the first time they had ever done that. So we're very proud of that fact. Cyber, Forrest, he's great too. I've been really blessed to work with some great people while I've been here. He took a look and completed a lot of these cyber applications that, to be perfectly frank, were like a combination of double Dutch and gobbledygook to me. I am not a cyber expert, but we have been able to obtain cyber coverage. And I want to tell you, I spoke at a meeting about a year ago where all the municipalities were saying to me, how did you get it? Because we cannot get cyber coverage. And we had not only had it then, but we got it renewed. And almost no public entities have been able to keep or get cyber coverage. So we're very, very proud of that too. And then, of course, we also, when the state legislature passed the requirement for cancer coverage for firefighters, we've been obtaining that ever since then. And we renewed at basically the same premium this year. Safety training of employees has always been given a high priority because that's how we keep them safe, to be obvious. But it also reduces workers' comp claims, obviously. So safety, we've had a lot of conferences and seminars and worked with the departments that will produce that, like Public Works, where they've always had a safety track. We try to encourage daily safety briefings for the people out in the field. If you can keep them safe, then you can keep your employees happy too. And our loss control director for one of our brokers, she's been coming out and performing inspections in departments where there's a need, so that we can identify potential areas that need improving and being brought up to code in some cases, so that again we keep it safe. Mind you, one of the simplest was ones before we ever brought a loss control director out. I noticed that we had an awful lot of trip and falls out at the body shop. When I went out there, there was just a tiny little lip from the yard into the shop. So Harvey Milner was here at that point, and I suggested maybe they paint it yellow. And they did, and no more trips and falls. So, you know, we can do that in our own homes too. That doesn't take a loss control director to figure it out. So spreading the word. And I think it's a good thing if we can spread the word that Columbus, Georgia is pretty special. And that we've got programs that people might want to learn about and put into place in their own localities, like the training, like the conferences, like all of it. And I'm not really very good at blowing my own horn, but I thought I'd let you know that after I got the Teddy Award, the National Award in 2015, I've been invited back to speak about 3 times at the National Conference. Last year I was on 3 panels on the state conference. I wasn't on any of them until a week before the conference, and then all of a sudden, it was fun. And PRIMA, which is the Risk Management Association, I've talked about CCG's programs at several of their meetings. Got a lot of inquiries from people after these meetings wanting to know what was special about CCG and what we could do to help them bring their programs up. And that was, you know, it's really good because I love to share. Again, with certain articles that I put into some of the periodicals about CCG's programs. And then the seminars for our employees are the things that keep us going. Last October, for the first time, RISC put on a workers' comp seminar for public entities. As public entities, we face some different things from different issues from some of the private ones, and nobody really talks about public entities at the major conferences. So we did one, and it was a runaway success. We just really enjoyed it, and we had great speakers. Councillor Garrett opened it up, and we had a full-day seminar that we had, I'm trying to remember now, close to 90 attendees. And that was a surprise. I didn't expect to get that many, but we did. So it was a really good thing, and I think it's something that we may want, you guys may want to repeat in future and build on. So that's basically what we have done in the 9 years, and I'm very proud of risk management, and I'm very proud of all the departments, and for everybody who gave me the ability to do that, and I thank you.
Anne-Marie, we need you to leave a can of that yellow paint and a book on how not to paste money out, because, yeah, it's just, You've done an outstanding job, really have. I'm glad I wasn't ever on the other side of the negotiating table with you.
Yeah. Th-
We're gonna find you. Counselor Huff?
You guys, you gotta be still for a minute. I just wanted to say publicly, as I said Friday, we appreciate all your work. As you just demonstrated, the money that you've saved us. But I publicly said to her on Friday, she came in about 2012, and I came in 2011, and I was all gung-ho on getting employees and everybody else getting paid, and all the lawsuits getting paid very well. And she reminded me and taught me that we were dealing with taxpayers' funds and monies, and she was going to do the best that she could to make it right. But we had to consider each and every claim for the city to be able to put our budgets together and take care of everybody every year. And I learned a lot from you. And I sent word to pass on to Pat Beagle and everything I learned about public works from her. So nice to see you. But just your ability to sit and be firm and let us know what we had to do. And I can't imagine, that's probably just a tip of the iceberg of how much you really saved us as far as negotiations and people changing their minds and moving in a different direction. So thank you so very much. We wish you very well on your retirement, and we're all here for you. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney?
Yeah, thank you. Anne Marie, we've enjoyed working with you during your time here. You have jealously guarded the taxpayers' money. And when I first took Anne Marie to a Columbus Bar Association meeting and introduced her to the lawyers there, I said, now, she's going to be denying your claims, but you'll think she's inviting you to tea because she's so diplomatic. But we have had a good time working with her, and she really has guarded the county treasury, and we wish you nothing but the best in the future.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager?
Thanks again, and thank you, Pat Beagler. It's great to see you again, and we will see you soon. Yes. So next, Mayor and Council, I've got a representative from Stantec, one of our engineering firms we work with. Donna Newman is here, and she will introduce our representative from Stantec and tell you what they're going to share with you today. And I do know that we've got some representatives from Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church. You know, we negotiated the I-185 interchange, and they're building their church at a different location at Ford Drive and Far Road, and they are interested in this recommendation as well.
Thank you, and I appreciate Mitchell and Keith waiting for this all morning. This was a very important traffic study for us to perform because of the changes that are going to occur because of the new interchange. We do think that will shift some traffic patterns, and then also with the move of Mount Pilgrim Church, and we appreciate their cooperation as part of that project as well. The city manager did ask us, because on Far Road, there is a hump in the road, and it has created some concerns of citizens through the past years. And then we knew with Mount Pilgrim moving to Ford and really at the intersection that there would be additional traffic at times depending on their services and what other events are happening at the church. So we wanted to make sure that it was safe for them to enter and exit as they hosted their service. So I have today Mitchell Greenway, who you are familiar with. He has done many studies in Columbus for us and does a great job for us. He is the consultant working on the Steam Mill Road project, which is still underway. And then we also have a traffic engineer that works for Stantec, and that's Keith Strickland, and he's the one that performed the traffic study and he will tell you today what we're recommending for improvements at that intersection.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. for giving me the opportunity to share with you the results of the Ford Drive study that Donna explained to you. And also, just to let you know, my presentation this morning is going to be very brief.
Well, thank you, first of all, for your patience in getting up here. We appreciate it.
No problem. So as Donna explained, the whole initiative for this study was related to the relocation of Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church to Ford Drive. And so our study actually looked at the two termini of Ford Drive, the intersection at Farr Road and the intersection at St. Mary's Road. We did a detailed analysis at each of those intersections, and we looked at whether or not there were signals justified, and if not, what other opportunities for improvements to those intersections. So first, I wanted to explain to you the Ford Drive Farr Road intersection. The traffic volumes, even with the church traffic added to the existing intersection, did not meet the necessary traffic volumes to warrant a stop-and-go traffic signal. Right now, we look, well, if you don't signalize that intersection, what other opportunities would you have to improve the safety of that intersection? Because we realize that because of the limited sight distance for traffic coming from Ford Drive, that intersection had safety issues. And so currently, that intersection, the left turns from both Ford Drive from the west and Farr Road from the south, the left turns are prohibited. So what could we do to improve the safety of that intersection? Then the other intersection is at St. Mary's Road. We looked at the volumes of that intersection, and it did meet the warrants for a traffic signal. But however, actually, the only reason that it met the warrants for the traffic signal were the volumes from Leary Avenue. The Ford Drive volumes, if it was just based on the Ford Drive volumes, those would not be warranted. Also, the majority of the traffic from Leary Avenue was turning right onto St. Mary's, assuming getting onto 185 to head north and south. And so that situation, a lot of cases when you're looking at warrants, you actually eliminate the right turn volumes from the analysis. But keeping those right turn volumes, that intersection did meet the warrants. So for the Ford Drive, we realized that there was, at the intersection at St. Mary's, that we realized that there could be traffic that's being diverted to the intersection from construction activities in the area. And we didn't want to make recommendations related to that intersection until that construction was completed, as well as you know, that there's going to be a new interchange on 185 at Old Casita Road that also will probably drastically reduce the traffic at that intersection as well. So our final recommendations for the two intersections were the intersection at Ford Drive and Farr Road, initially to put up stop signs on Farr Road. That would actually give traffic coming from Ford Drive easy access, a safe access to Farr Road. And the volumes on Farr Road would be low enough that stop signs in the north-south directions would not add severe congestion to that intersection. Also, we are proposing to add sidewalks or crosswalks at that intersection to help pedestrians cross Farr Road and Ford Drive as well. In the long term, we would look, the city would look at that intersection each year to determine if there are any additional safety improvements, such as possibly a flashing signal to warn people of the stop signs, or any other additional safety improvements that may be needed. The recommendations at St. Mary's Road were basically to wait and not spend any additional funds at that intersection until the traffic that was being diverted related to construction, as well as the traffic from the new interchange settled down, and then you would know what type of improvement would be best at that intersection. And so essentially those were the recommendations for from our study. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, Councilor Huff.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the presentation. Pastor Stallion had to leave, and he has some of his deacons here to represent the church. Our concern is the stop signs are not going to be safe enough. I've traveled that road, even though it's going to reduce traffic coming from the old Casita Road side. The traffic coming out of Wandering Lane and Ridgefield, Roman, all the people that live there still will come that way. So I've been driving that road since I was 16. And coming up that hill, nobody's accustomed to a stop sign. And coming from the other side, I rode it this morning on my way in. Coming from the St. Mary's Road side, the limited distance of you not being able to see, for people who are not accustomed to a stop sign, we're going to have accidents. And they have an older population at the church. That reaction time is a little slower. Mine is a little slower. So the flashing lights at least needs to be there to let people know, because the traffic's not there yet, but once they get going, the capacity is going to be somewhere in the 500 range as they build their volume back. And it's just the stop sign is going to be dangerous. I don't want anybody to get hurt in order for us to come back and say we need flashing lights.
Well, obviously, there are things that you can do initially, like portable message signs to advise the drivers that you have a new traffic control condition. So that would help. But yes, I guess you would really have to see, once those are removed, whether or not the stop sign ahead signs would be enough to warn drivers that aren't familiar with stopping at that intersection.
Yeah. I've been riding around town, and there are other, I have to go back and write them down for you, but there are other intersections where they had to come back and put flashing lights in. And we're going to push a little bit. We need flashing. We need something other than a stop sign. That's just not safe, unless you're going to take the hill down and make it flat where everybody can see. Yeah, it's just not safe at all. I don't know if they have anything to say today, if they're allowed to speak, but we need at least a flashing light. We're not really concerned about the St. Mary's Leary side as much as we are the Farr Road Ford side.
I understand.
Yeah.
So Counselor, I'll have further conversation with them, with the staff and with them, and we'll see. But I do appreciate them bringing forward the all-way stop sign, because they've looked at it and they continue to tell me that it didn't warrant a traffic signal. Yeah. And so I did press, and now we're at an all-way stop, and they are able to justify an all-way stop. And so we'll have further conversation to see if.
Check and see if we can get a flashing light, because I don't want to have accidents in order to get a flashing light. Because in the past, when we put in the roundabout, at North Star and St. Mary's. The roundabout was put in because they said we didn't warrant a traffic light, but they also said you had to have 6 fatalities to get a traffic light.
Yeah.
So we don't want any fatalities.
Yeah,
So if
well-
we get a flashing light, we'd be better off.
Yeah, well, there was a fatality years ago
Yeah.
at that intersection,
Yeah,
so.
they just said
But
we
we'll,
didn't have
we'll,
enough.
we'll continue to talk about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think that's all the questions.
Okay. Next, Mayor, I'm going to, thank you, sir. We appreciate you coming.
Thank y'all for waiting
I'm going
around.
to call Deputy City Manager Hodge on a infrastructure road update. We've got road work going on all over the city. And it's a good thing, but it's inconvenient, but we'll get there, that it will be convenient. Remember Tobin Road, remember St. Mary's Road, remember, Willis, yeah, I can, but, you know, and, yeah, Weems, was it Weems Road?
Whittlesey
Well,
Road.
no. Weems,
Whittlesey and Moon.
yeah, Moon. I'm thinking about, what's his name, that used to come all the time?
Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Rhodes. Yes, sir. But at any rate, we've got a lot of work going on. There's an inconvenience to so many, and, but it's going to make Columbus a better place. Deputy City Manager Hodge.
So good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is just an update, kind of to let you know where we are with all of the projects going on. You see the ones that are under construction, but we have a lot that's under design as well. So again, just as a reminder, for funding purposes, for transportation and for stormwater, we have multiple funding sources that we leverage to get these projects to completion, including the other local option sales tax, the paving fund, the renewal of the T-Splost. We now have funding in the special purpose local option sales tax, GDOT grants, and LMIG on the transportation side. And for stormwater, the other local option sales tax, the stormwater fund, and the SPLOST was funding for stormwater projects. This is just a list of ones that have been completed since the last time I made a presentation to council. I've tried to provide some before and after pictures, but you can remember there in front of the Synovus building on the Riverwalk, the issues that we were having, and then that project is now complete, and we also have a viewing area over our river as well. The Dragonfly Trail connection, this was from MLK to the river. That project is now complete. The switchbacks down by the river have been redone, and so it's a better access to the river. And also the picture on the right, we have installed through the help of the Dragonfly Trails. It was a donated project. No city dollars was spent on the project, but there is a lighting under the 11th Street Viaduct. If you haven't been through there at night, we're changing it up. There's different themes that we'll use throughout the year, and that was a project partnership with Dragonfly. The Fort Benning Road Roundabout and Streetscapes, that is a completed project now. Warm Springs Road Culvert, again, this was another one where the road was actually closed for over a year. We don't hear anything anymore. The road's been open, the project's complete, so we understand the inconvenience to those who have to travel these particular roads on a daily basis. And sometimes the project is lengthy, and we understand that, but we try to get it completed as soon as possible. And again, this is before pictures on the Riverwalk. There was a slope failure issue at what we call Light Pole 88. You can see between May of 2019 and May of 2020 how it was continuing to fail, and this is the completed project. So this should continue to provide the Riverwalk and the slope not to fail in the future. Other projects under construction, resurfacing. We've done almost 20 miles of resurfacing this fiscal year, and more to come this fiscal year. The Salmon Road Signal, that's under construction. Estimated completion is this summer. J.R. Allen River Road Signals and Light, this is a GDOT project that we've partnered with. We're awaiting the materials to install the poles. That project's expected to begin in the spring for the signals. The spider web, we're planning to bid the bridge out in the spring, so in the next few months we'll start to see continued progress on the spider web project. I-185 and Buena Vista Road, this is a GDOT project they're managing for us, Estimated completion for that project is the summer of '24. The Veterans Parkway, Turnberry to State Road 315 in Harris County. This is a T-Splosh project that's managed by GDOT. That estimated completion is 2027. So they have acquired 70 of the 187 right-of-way acquisitions that need to be done. So a lot of right-of-way acquisition on that
I'm
particular
going to ask a
project.
question before you get too far away from it. Dumb question, I know, but I remember how far backed up the traffic would be on River Road because of the signalization. It used to be, what was it, at Mobley? Where the roundabout is now, Green Island Drive.
Right, Bradley Park.
Those signals for J.R. Allen are going to be far enough away where we don't anticipate that kind of undoing the good we did with the roundabout.
No, they'll
Okay.
be, you know how difficult it is when you come off of J.R. Allen to make a
Oh,
left-hand
no,
turn
yeah.
onto River
I go down
Road,
there
so.
all- I
that
get
will
that. I
help.
guess I was just worried about creating it during peak time, another log jam. It's a long way, but I remember they used to be backed up at that signal a long way.
So
So,
with the-
so that will provide some ease of getting in and out of the marina?
Yes.
Because I had someone
it's-
call me last week about that.
It's
Yes.
needed.
Yeah.
I can't remember how far it is. I didn't know if it would back up between the roundabout and the new signals at the marina.
There shouldn't be any issues
Okay.
with that because of the distance between
Okay.
the two.
It is, but it-
These, again, are projects under development, 19th Street flood abatement. That project we have been working on for years. We are still waiting on a permit from the railroad. We are moving forward with all of the updates on all the plans and the bid document, and we're probably going to bid that out before we get the permit and start at the other end. But that is a project that's been on the books for a while, and that one will be moving forward. Fortson Road, Williams Road Roundabout, we're awaiting the plan revisions. We needed to raise the grade to avoid conflicts with some water mains in that area, so that one will be bid out shortly. 30th Avenue Signal, we're finalizing GDOT permit on that one, as well as the 10th Avenue Signal. The permit and the poles are on order for that project as well. Military Drive and Infantry Road, those two projects are under design. I-185 and the Casita Road interchange, that completion, this is a GDOT managed project for us. It's a T-Splosh project. Completion on that project is 2026. Mott's Green, we're executing the GDOT agreement. The vendor will start on that project in the fall. These are GDOT projects that are under development or construction. We have monthly calls with GDOT. They have a lot of projects that they're doing in our community that are funded by the state. Oglethorpe Bridge is one of those projects. We are working with them and their consultants. We do want this to be a signature bridge into Columbus. So there might be some funding that the city will need to provide to go above and beyond what GDOT is willing to do. So we're working through that so we can provide some options to council on that project. River Road resurfacing, this again is a GDOT project that will be completed in September of this year. And this is resurfacing all the way from Veterans Parkway all the way into Harris County. So you'll start to see resurfacing on River Road. Miller Road and Manchester Expressway, this is the replacement of the bridge. That completion is summer of '25. So again, these are, several two and a half year projects that once it's done will be great, but it will be an inconvenience for those traveling in that direction. J.R. Allen Manchester Expressway improvements, that project should be completed in the next couple months. So that's additional turn lanes and some reworking of that intersection. Bradley Park at J.R. Allen diverging Diamond, this again is a GDOT project. Expected completion on that one is August of '24. So another 2-year project at that location as well. Warecova Creek Culvert, this is at 13th and 13th, that's a GDOT project. So if we look at our T-Splosh projects, Band 1, these are the ones that will be city managed. There are 11 projects in Band 1, so obviously that's a lot for city staff to manage all of those projects. So these are the 7 that we will manage internally, and then we also have 4 that GDOT will be managing. So we've already authorized the design for the Steam Mill Road project, so that design is moving forward. The Riverwalk repaving, we'll start moving forward on that. Whitesville Road improvements, selecting a consultant to start the design work on that project. South Lumpkin Road improvements. And just to mention on this, we have also received a $1 million grant through the Safe Streets program through the U.S. Department of Transportation. So that will allow us to provide additional enhancements related to safe streets on that project, coupled with our T-SPLOST funding that we have on that project. 13th Avenue, 17th Street in Linwood, Liberty Theater block enhancements, and the 5th Avenue connector. So those we'll manage internally. GDOT will manage these 4 projects, the Buena Vista Road corridor improvements, University Avenue road diet and streetscapes, Andrews Road, and Brennan Road improvements.
Excuse me, Deputy City Manager Hodge. Mayor Pro Tem?
You mentioned on the J.R. Allen and Expressway interchange, the improvements there, the on and off ramps. Is that what you're referring to? There's not anything new coming, right?
No, that's what they're currently doing, adding those additional turn lanes.
All right, great. Thank you.
We got Councilor House. Hang on just a second.
So is the University Avenue road diet, is that the reduction of number of lanes that we've talked about before?
Yes.
Okay.
But on some of these, they're putting bike lanes in there, like,
Almost all of these projects will have the trail on one side and a
Okay.
5-foot sidewalk on the other side. I don't believe, the 13th Avenue, 17th Street, Linwood, that's intersection improvement, so that would not include a trail connection, but all the other ones will include the trail connection.
well, that's good, thank you.
And so also just for facility updates, City Hall, again, that facility was acquired back in February of '22. Synovus vacated 3 of the 4 buildings in July. Renovation began shortly after they vacated. Some of you were able to attend the tour that we had of the facility, so that is moving forward. We're expecting phase 1 relocation in June of this year. So 4 short months away, we will be relocating the mayor, the city manager, the city attorney, clerk of council, finance, admin, IT, human resources, the print shop, workforce investment, UGA cooperative extension, 311, and Parks and Rec admin. We will have a massive communication effort in relation to this move to make sure citizens know where to find departments. So we're working on that as well. City Hall, it will be Columbus City Hall. We're working on a signage package that we'll be bringing back to council, just so you can see what we're considering for signage around the building, to make sure that, you know, everybody's in agreement, but our thought right now is Columbus City Hall. This is just some pictures of the inside. If you saw it before and you see it now, it really looks completely different. We've designed each of the departments to meet their needs. And so we've been working with the departments. Ryan Pruitt has been managing this project and working with the departments on everyone that's going to relocate to this facility. Other facilities under development, you're familiar with the Judicial Center. That design is ongoing. We'll expect to come back to council in April with an update on where we're at with the design of the Judicial Center. The Sheriff's Administration Building, working with the Sheriff's Office on that design work. We expect to have them into that building by the end of this year. The jail assessment, that RFP has been issued. The proposals are under review, so that will be coming back to council soon for your authorization. We can move forward with the jail assessment. Fire Station 5 replacement, the design was on the agenda today, so that was approved, so that will be moving forward. The swimming pools, that's under design. Construction is scheduled to start this summer, to be open next summer. Summer of '24, we'll have 3 new pools, and we're working on 2 new splash pads. Hopefully we can try to get those in so we can have some water activities in addition to double churches and the natatorium this summer. Liberty Theater, we're moving forward with that assessment. You'll see a fence go up around this building to protect the building. Roof replacement is a high priority for us, and we're still waiting to hear back on our grant opportunities. We've applied for grants. We have not received word yet, so we're still hopeful that we'll have some grants to add to the funding that we have available currently. And the River Road Tower, which was also a SPLOST project, we are developing the specifications to get that project out to bid as well. So a lot going on. Happy to answer any questions. There probably is a few projects that I did not include on the list, so if there's something you didn't see that you were expecting, please let me know and we'll get you an update on that project as well.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just a question about the design of the swimming pool at Salmon Road and Shirley Winston. Is that, and Rigdon, are those all splash pads?
No, there will be, those three will be pools with water features.
Okay, all right, great.
So
Thank
it
you.
will replace the pools that were there, but bigger, better, greater. I think I saw Holly was here earlier. Ryan's here as well, but we'll come back with some concepts and designs. We're gonna have some more public meetings, but they're gonna be great.
And that was going to be my question. We're still accepting input on what those additional features would look like, right?
So Ryan might want to address this. I know he's been closely involved with the design work, but we had some public meetings and got input from the public, and a lot of the same things that different areas of our community wanted. So it's going to be great. So Ryan, you want to?
Good afternoon. As Deputy City Manager Hodgman, we did have public meetings. Parks and Rec really hosted those, got feedback from each of the community members at each of the pool locations. So we gave that information back to the design team. They've come out with some initial concepts that we're currently reviewing and developing in more detail, and we'll be able to come back soon and share with y'all and with the public as well.
Okay. Councilor Huff?
Yeah, my question, I see Director Bradley just walked in. Did they use all the information that they did with the sticky notes that night to come up with these designs?
Yes, sir. We actually used all the sticky notes. We also had online surveys, and we also did a survey of our youth swimmers and our swimmers that, of course, swim next door, because we wanted all components within the community, and I'm happy to say we were able to accommodate most, if not all, of those sticky notes, and of course, all the priorities that people across the community showed as far as interest levels. And I know you know, because you saw those different options, and we had a lot of options. But very happy to say that we're gonna actually be able to incorporate most, if not all, of the options that people chose, at least those that were very favorable, that people really, really wanted to see. It's gonna be extremely exciting. I'm excited because it's hard to not be with when you see. So, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kogel?
Where, can you just remind me where those splash pads are going? Or general idea?
So, yes, ma'am. So identified as far as early on in the Splash project, we actually listed some of those, but we listed 2 as to be determined. So at this point, I believe it's Carver Park, Britt David, here on this campus, and, oh goodness, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you, the Liberty District.
Okay.
Those were the 4, and then we had 2 to be determined after those 4 were put in.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. We had anticipated putting one, my bearings of where we are, somewhere on the property, because we'd be able to utilize the showers and the restrooms at the aquatic center, because one of the health code requirements is that we will need bathrooms for these.
So we'll do four first and then 2 later? Okay, ish.
Right now, what's budgeted is we'll have 2 now, and
that's
then
what I
the rest of them are throughout the 10-year pay-as-you-go project schedule. But we're looking at 2, we're budgeted in FY '23.
Okay.
I think that's it for the questions.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes my agenda for today.
Okay. All right. We'll move to Madam Clerk's
Oh,
agenda.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry, I've got critical vacancies. I've
Okay,
gotta
yeah,
do.
I thought you'd given up on that one.
Yeah.
Thought we filled that job.
No, right. Yeah, critical vacancies. HR Director Rita Hollowell will give us an update on critical vacancies throughout the government.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Mayor and Council, City Manager and City Attorney. So I will provide an update on critical vacancies for the Columbus Consolidated Government. It's been about 6 months since I provided an update back in July of 2022. So I wanted to provide another update on what our critical vacancies look like. And just to define in terms of what constitutes a critical vacancy, these are typically positions that have been vacant for 6 months or longer. These are positions that are required in order for the organization to function efficiently and effectively. These are also typically hard to fill positions due to the specialized work for these type positions, and these are typically positions that are in high demand. So again, we looked at when you see the information that we'll be sharing today, this is not going to be so unfamiliar to you in terms of the areas where we have critical vacancies, because the 6 months ago, these were some of the same positions that we were talking about. But I did want to, before we go into depth about our critical vacancies here with the City of Columbus,